Welcome to this gathering of Manatee Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where for 60 years diversity of faith, race, ethnicity, sexual and gender identity have been honored by people of courage and vision. We are a covenanted community bound together by our belief in freedom of worship, love, and respect. If you are visiting with us this morning, we welcome you as our guests and extend an invitation to join us for refreshments and conversations after the service. There are several announcements in the order of service. Please take note of those of interest to you. I do especially want to point out that that Social Justice Committee is meeting after today's service at 12. We usually meet on the first Sunday of the month, but because of the annual meeting, we had to postpone that. So that's a little out of our ordinary scheduling, and I want to just make sure that those who are interested in attending that know that that is happening today. I'd like to ask Pat Rohr, who is a member of our board, to come forward to light our chalice. Please join in our chalice lighting words that are printed in our order of service. At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Our opening words this morning is a poem by Mary White Ovington. O wondrous night, the vast and boundless ocean of all eternity we seem to see, when thou dost fall, and every star of heaven cometh to shine on thee. Our earth seems but an atom mid this grandeur, tossed on the boundless and eternal space, a little spot in all the heaven's brightness, filling its tiny place. What are we in all this solemn vastness? A merest speck, a moment here, then gone, a little drop amid the countless fellows on the great ocean home. And yet the smallest things are oft most precious. Each tiny gem is filled with beauty rare, and we may have within us something grander than any starry sphere. A human soul, it goes we know not whither, and comes we know not whence. It is as deep a mystery as any starry splendor that silent watch doth keep. And let us keep it there so pure and spotless, so full of tender, deep, and holy love, that God may find it greater and more precious than any stars above. Our opening hymn this morning is 1028, The Fire of Commitment. It is found in our Teal hymn book. It is a rousing song, so sing full voice. Please rise and bow your spirit. I'd like to call the board that was elected on last Sunday at our annual meeting to come forward. Do you know who you all are? Elected and currently serving. Everybody on the board to come forward. Yeah, up here, yeah, so we can all see your shining faces.
Thorn in amongst the roses.
Oh, I know, here's another one.
There's another thorn.
Two more thorns.
This is your board for this coming year. We elected and affirmed their posts at our annual meeting last Sunday, and they have made a commitment to us as a congregation to serve our best interests. And so I'm going to ask that you join me in reading in our order of service. You may listen up here, but we, the members of the congregation. So please, that should be in your order of service, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So let's read that. Let's read that in unison to offer our commitment to these individuals as they serve us in the capacity of board of directors. We, the members of this congregation, express to this congregation's board of directors our gratitude for your investment in our community, our trust in your integrity and wisdom, our support of your leadership, and our enduring loyalty to the mission and vision of this fellowship. We pledge to do what is within our power to make your stewardship of our shared future an experience of discovery, accomplishment, and growth. Together, may we make this community a beacon of reason, compassion, and freedom, and a witness to the power of love and aspiration to make a better world. Thank you very much. Go and serve well, and in peace and enjoy. We have a responsive reading this morning, number 651, The Body is Humankind. I just want to make sure this prints. Yes. So I will read the unitalics, and I ask you to join in reading the bold of the italics. 651 in our Greg hymnal. I am a single cell in a body of 4 billion cells. The body is humankind. I am a single cell. My needs are individual, but they are not unique. I am interlocked with other human beings in the consequences of our actions, thoughts, and feelings. I will work for human unity and human peace, for a moral order and harmony with the order of the universe. Together we share the quest for a society of the whole equal to our needs. A society in which we need not live beneath our moral capacity and in which justice has a life of its own. We are single cells in a body of 4 billion cells. The body is humankind. And if anybody was counting, we are now a body of over 7 billion cells.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Over the last several years, especially in Hollywood movies, there are stories being told of racial tensions where the white person becomes the savior. This came forward again with the hit movie Green Book. Historically, the Green Book was a travel guide created to assist black travelers through the Jim Crow South. It alerted them to where they could find gas, find lodging, find routes of travel where they would be safe from the Klan. The movie took that historical document and placed a white man at the heart of the story of a black musician who traveled the South. These individuals were also real people. However, the white character in the movie was the lead. The black character was the supporting actor. It is centered in the white story instead of being centered in the black story. This was done in the fictionalized movie Stonewall, the riots that launched the modern-day gay rights movement. A white person became the lead in that story when it was historically black transgender women who stood up to say no more raids on LGBT spaces. The notion of a white savior, fiction character, or historical person has been used to soothe white guilt in the regard of our American racist history. Whites will watch the movie, see themselves in the lead role, and feel good about the movie's story because they identify with the white lead and hope that if these events happened in their life, they can fantasize that they would act like these white men and women. The actual story, if a historical story, usually does not find white people in the center of the story. White people are not the savior of the black struggle under Jim Crow's oppressive weight, despite what Hollywood may suggest. Does this mean that white people are not in the story of black struggle to throw off the shackles of oppression in America? No. They are in the story, but usually as side players. Sometimes they played major roles, like the role that Mary White Ovington played in the founding of the NAACP 110 years ago. But the difference is how that role was developed over time. If our desire as Unitarian Universalists is to be an antidote to the increasing racial tensions in this current era, then we need to learn what that difference is and how we can be of most help to dismantle the white supremacist culture that is having an ugly and violent resurgence in our nation. We can learn something of the partnership that Mary White Ovington developed with W.E.B. Du Bois and others in the formation of the NAACP. Mary White Ovington was born in 1865 in Brooklyn, New York, to Unitarian parents who were active in the suffrage movement. Her maternal grandmother was active as an abolitionist. Her family struggled with the economy of the times, but they seemed to manage better than Mary's neighbors a block away, where the children's dirty clothes were in tatters. She went on to college, and instead of leaving the poverty she saw in her youth, decided that she would do something about it. In Carolyn Whedon's biography, she writes that Mary White Ovington became a socialist because, as Mary puts it, the years have brought me one hard fact after another, which I have faced and striven to remedy. And this effort has led me, through my reason and understanding, into that political movement of the world's laborers called socialism. Whedon continues, her own early life was happy and rich, with nurture to body and mind and soul. It made all the sense in the world to believe that every child should have that wealth and opportunity. She attended Radcliffe College in Cambridge and was deeply influenced by a professor who took her on as a research assistant in writing social histories, what we would call sociology. Radcliffe did not award women bachelor's degrees in those days, but a certificate of attendance. Women attended college for the love of learning, was Radcliffe's belief. It was this education that would aid her in her work later in life. She was encouraged to head a settlement at Greenpoint, New York. The settlement movement was a social reform movement where the poor and the rich would live in the same building, enjoy social relationships. The hope was that the settlement workers would share their knowledge, culture, and skills to help alleviate the conditions of poverty in the neighborhood. They would provide services such as daycare, education, and health care, which would assist in improving lives. These were white settlement houses. It was in 1901 that she found herself preparing for a dinner to hear Booker T. Washington. She was casually aware of the issues in the South, but was totally blind to the issues in the North. Washington's speech describing the struggles that the Negro faced in New York, I used the word that was used in her day, she left that meeting wondering what she was going to do. The settlement movement was changing. A lot of services provided were now provided by the public schools. Churches had taken on social club activities. So the needs for settlement houses in the white community had diminished. The plight of African Americans was invisible to the reformers within the settlement movement. Booker T. Washington believed that equal rights would be through black economic power and vocational education, a belief that Mary White Ovington did not share. Mary White Ovington leaned more towards W.E.B. Du Bois' belief that civil rights and voting rights with education, not just vocational education, was the key to liberation. She wrote Du Bois several times and, in the process, developed a strong friendship. Mary White Ovington became a bridge between Du Bois and wealthy philanthropists and influential journalists. She was able to secure funding for the work that Du Bois was doing and funding for her own research of social histories on the plight of the Negro in the northern and southern states. She did her own homework on the issues. She read what she could. She used her training in research to write papers and publish articles on the issues, and she kept Du Bois informed with her writings. She was holding herself accountable to the cause. The years just before the founding of the NAACP were filled with riots. The riots were widespread. A journalist by the name of William Walling wrote in 1908 an article entitled "Race War in the North." In it was a quote that burned in Ovington's heart. Who realizes the seriousness of the situation, and what large and powerful body of citizens is ready to come to the Negro's aid? Ovington gathered Walling and people from the black community to develop such an organization. Together they formed a statement entitled "The Call." In it was these words: "We call upon all the believers in democracy to join in a national conference for the discussion of present evils, the voicing of protest, and the renewal of the struggle for civil and political liberties." The editor of the New York Post published this with 60 signatures. W.E. Du Bois, Unitarian such as Reverend John Haynes Holmes, founder of modern-day social workers, Jane Addams, were among them. What united this broad list of signatories that spanned class and race was none other than Mary White Ovington. Networking is an important skill set in being a partner and an ally to develop justice. In this case, because Mary White Ovington was white, she was able to open doors of influence that some other folks might not have been able to open. She developed relationships, brought people together to work towards justice. She was a strong proponent for integration and interracial alliances. From this call came the formation of what was to be known as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Today it is simply called the NAACP. Mary White Ovington would dedicate nearly 4 decades to the survival of this organization. She served as secretary and as chair of the board. Her contributions were vast. She published a book entitled Half a Man, The Status of the Negro in New York, which was printed 3 times. After its 3rd printing in 1969, 18 years after her death, it was hailed as a social work classic. Biographer Whedon wrote, "This book presaged the latter half of her life, the love of unconventional people that would keep her traveling to NAACP branches across the country, rather than sitting in the increasingly bureaucratic New York office. Her belief in the laboring class that would keep her faith in socialism, communism through 2 world wars. Her eventual worry that the NAACP bolstered only the middle class and failed to bring Negroes into the workers' movement. The unwavering belief in racial integration as the ideal, even when practical progress might involve segregation, as in training black officers in World Wars I and II. Writing for children, particularly black children, so that their lives might be enriched by literature as hers had been, support and promotion of black writers during the Harlem Renaissance and after, with hundreds of perceptive reviews in her syndicated book chat column, a steady conviction that feminism failed whenever it failed black women, an ability to look at another person and see possibility and promise, not error and fault, and to relate to the former and not get bogged down by the latter. Mary White Ovington is a testament to how Unitarian Universalists are to work with, be held accountable to, and be a bridge with the primary group and other groups in shaping justice. She did not rush in to be a white savior. She was invited in to work alongside, to heed the advice and understandings of those marginalized. Mary White Ovington is a Unitarian who offers us a model of how we can be allies to others. May we humbly listen first before we offer solutions or rush in to save the day. Blessed be. We come to a time of prayers of the community, and I have, is there something else put in the box here? No. I have a note from Gary, who says, "I want to thank everybody for celebrating my birthday. The cake was great, as was the company, and I hope to celebrate next year, 2020, with my surrogate family." Please hold Mary Malakowski and her partner Richard Kirby in our thoughts and prayers. She has been admitted to hospice after her surgery a few weeks back. There's joy in a wonderful gathering of the Share-A-Dish honoring all of our new members of this past year. And there are many who aren't able to be with us today. So if you notice that they are not here, give them a note, send them a note, give them a call, a visit, and make a point to reach out to them this week. Let them know that we are thinking of them and that we care about them. Let us hold these joys and sorrows and those that have not yet found expression in our hearts at this time in a moment of silence. May our hearts be inspired to offer support to one another. Blessed be and amen. We say in our church that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. What we mean by that is that we believe it is a blessing to be able to govern and support our religious community ourselves, to make possible by our generosity everything we dream of and do to live out our shared values. Every week, we lift up the spiritual value of generosity by taking an offering for the ministries of this fellowship. Our plate then, as it is passed among us, becomes filled with the evidence of that generosity. It is our harvest, gathered in every week for what most nourishes us. The ushers will now come among you to receive the gifts of the congregation. The morning offering will be most gratefully received. Our closing hymn this morning is number 155, Circle Round for Freedom. We will sing it through twice. The choir will sing harmony on the second time through. Please rise in body or spirit.
All of us
extinguish our flame. Please join in our words in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Circle round for freedom. Simple words, but they mean that we need to listen to each other. They mean we need to hold each other attentive in our hearts. It means that we are there for each other. It means that we care for one another. It means we bring in more people into the circle. People who may not be like us, people who may be very different than us. They all make the circle whole. This week, may we remind ourselves of who we are inviting in and invite all into the circle. Blessed be.
Thank you.
I'm so sad. But I look forward to the return, and when there's a question mark. Well, you have been a joy. You and Joe. Thank you. Okay.
Big hug.
Getting together with your
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
No, and Carol, I asked her to send a reminder.
Have a safe
Because I don't know what my calendar looks like.
Spine to spine. The old book editor. See if we can get everyone in here. Just sort of, I'm anal about some things. Other things I can care less. Like combing my hair. Well, today I just stick it up. I got a fit. Yeah, it's, I guess, a little better. It looks. I hope I don't get that skin decrepit thing. Yeah. Somebody laughed. Okay, hang on a second. Share. Those were just hymns.
Okay, Barbara, here it comes. Okay. Bringing up the rear. That was the best yet. Good, I love it.
Stay for the service.
Thank you.
I'm having fun learning these.
Good, good. Well, they're great.
Of the day, like, was this singing day? So that he wasn't really expecting Christians.
No, we didn't. And I think he just, I don't know. But it seems to me that he should be there next time.
Oh, Gary Foster. Well, I didn't know they were gonna have this kind of honorary board. Maybe that's what it is. I haven't been out there. Hello, Gary. Yeah, come on out and see what's up there. Well, good morning.